Welcome to Go Outside and Cook. Today we're going to barbecue some goat. You know, I'm really surprised that that goat meat is not more popular here in the U.S. than it actually is. It's you know, and some people have a little bit of a, I don't know, a thing because they don't eat it. You know, they haven't had it or whatever, so they kind of maybe turn their nose up to it. But this is actually a very good piece of meat. I'll tell you a little bit about it, and then we'll get started. Okay, it's considered a red meat, and it's probably the lightest and absolutely the most healthiest of all the red meat available out there. It's got a lot less cholesterol in it. It's got a lot less fat. It's just a lot more healthy. It's a very good meat. It's a very mild meat. You know, like most red meats are, domestic red meats. This is a domestic goat that we're cooking, and we're going to be doing the leg portion. And I thought about you know, how I want to cook this thing, because there's so many different things you can do with it. You can treat it like you would lamb or mutton or whatever, and you can get a Mediterranean spice profile on it. You can do, you know, things that are just really phenomenal with it. And I kind of played with that for a little bit, and I decided, you know what, I just want good Western style barbecue today. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick with just a standard barbecue profile on this. We're going to smoke it on my WSM Mini, a full 14-inch Smokey Mountain, and I think I'm going to use a little bit of cherry plum wood with it today. And so I'll show you how I get this thing set up. We've got the silver skin membrane all over the outside, and it's real common for people to cook this with that membrane on it. They feel like it kind of helps keep the moisture inside. But I really want my rubs to get in this. Like I said, we're doing a standard barbecue, so I'm going to go ahead and start trimming this membrane off and exposing this goat meat. Even though it's going to cause me to lose some of that fat that I love, but the way I'm cooking this low and slow today, it's going to help me when it's, you know, it's going to help to rub the stick if it's not there. And it's also going to help me get a good bark, because I'm looking for a good bark on this today. I'm going to give it just a little splash of red wine vinegar. Any vinegar is fine. This just happened to be what was closest at hand. Just something to help kind of tenderize a little bit. I'll get both sides of it that way. Beautiful. Okay, and then I'm going to put in a little bit of olive oil on there. Nice thin coat all over. So you'll see I'm actually doing a binder today for the rub. I don't normally do that, but I decided I wanted to have a good thick coating of rub on here. And like I said, I want to get a really good bark. So I'm just using a standard barbecue rub. It's got all kinds of good stuff in it. Onion, garlic, smoked paprika. It's got some smoked salt in it. A little bit of sugar. It's got some herbs, parsley and whatnot. A little chili powder, ancho chili powder, and some cayenne pepper. And I'm going to give it a good heavy coat. And once we get this well coated, we are going to let it dry marinade for about 3 hours. Looking good. Next side here. We'll let this do its thing, and I'll get back with you when we're ready to get the pit readied up. Okay, we're in this about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes, and about 10 minutes ago she spiked up to about 300 degrees, and that's something that's typical of these Weber Smoky Mountains. They have a lot of breathability about them, and so sometimes your fire can kind of take off, and I've heard people talk about that and want to know, what you can do to correct it. So I'll give you a few pointers on this little pit, and this goes for everything from this little 14-inch mini all the way up to the 22-inch. It's all the exact same thing. In fact, this cooks exactly like the big one cooks. So what I do, one of the things is when I first set my pit up when it's brand new, is I run a little thin coat of oil right here on the lip where the lid goes on. And that kind of helps to create something for the particulate to stick to and build up. And I know a lot of people talk about the tar that builds up in these, and they're constantly trying to clean it off, and I don't. It can be a nuisance when the pit's cool, the lid kind of sticks and stuff, but it's really a great gasket. It's part of the seasoning process of your pit, and you really want anything to help close those air gaps up, okay? So that's one thing that can help out a lot. There's a door here in the back. I'm not going to turn this around, but in the back there's a door where you can open and you can feed your fire, stoke your fire through that. You can also buy gasket material to put around that. I don't have it on this. I tend to manage pretty good without it. I do have it on the big one, and it does help. But those are a couple things. And then the other thing that to remember is you really just got to learn how to work your vents. Okay, so this thing it flew up to 300 degrees, which is a lot more than where I wanted it to be. And I went around the bottom. There's three vents on the bottom. There's an exhaust vent on the top. And so the 3 vents on the bottom, I closed them down to a third. They're only open a third of the way now, where they were wide open to begin with. and that's going to reduce the amount of airflow that comes into the firebox, and it's going to reduce the burn rate, okay? And then on the top, I went ahead and closed it also down to about 1/3. So that slowed the airflow down. You have to keep a close eye when you do this. You know, give it your pit time to settle to its new airflow. It takes a few minutes for that to happen, so you've got to have patience. It took it probably 10 minutes to ramp down to the 250 where I wanted it. Sometimes on warmer days, it could be even longer. So allow the time for it to settle to where it's going to be, and then come back out. You know, especially on these longer cooks. If you're working in an SMW, you're doing a longer cook, then you've got time for those adjustments to happen. So, you know, when I first did it, I went to half a vent. That brought it down to 275. I choked it down to 1/3. That settled it into 250. And now we're going to watch it, because as the fuel starts to burn or continues to burn, that rate could also change. And just learn to work your vents. You know, realize that, you know, you don't want to choke your fire to the point that it smolders. You've got to have an appropriate amount of exhaust, and if you get a good even airflow going through your pit, you can speed up or slow down that airflow. Typically in these WSMs, just remember, the faster the air is flowing, the hotter the fire is going to burn once you get it going. At first, you've still got a cold box down there. If you put your coal in the center or if you put it on top, doesn't matter. Not everything's going yet, but once it starts getting to going, and once that thing comes up to temp and that chimney effect happens and it starts to draw the air through the pit, then you have to regulate at that point. So just because you're not getting the regulation you want at the beginning of your cook doesn't mean that it's not obtainable. It's normal for it to ramp up. Stay on top of it until you get it settled, and once you do, these will typically ride for hours where you want them to be once you get them regulated. So just something to keep in mind. I don't even know how to describe to you what kind of aromas are going on in my kitchen right now, but this stuff is just absolutely outstanding. The smell. I'm going to give it a taste here. I tell you, the bark on this stuff is just wonderful. The flavors that are going through my mouth right now, it's like a roller coaster ride. All the spices have made their way through all the meat, and man, it just leaves a flavor that continues to resonate through your mouth. Yeah, give it a shot if you ever get a chance. Take it outside and cook.